The iPhone 16 series just launched, but chances are good that you're an Android fan, so you think to yourself, why should I care? What does the iPhone series have to do with me? Well, I am also an Android fan, and I'm actually really interested in what's going on with the iPhone 16 series because what Apple does, Android manufacturers tend to follow. So if we take a look at what's going on with the iPhone 16, we can see what might be coming to Android in the future. With all that in mind, I want to talk about 4 things that the iPhone 16 series has that might be important to know for Android fans out there. The biggest hardware update to the iPhone 16 series this year is the new camera control button. This is a hardware button that lives on the side of the phone that allows you to quickly launch the camera, take a snapshot, capture a video, and you can even swipe to zoom on the capacitive button itself. Android fans watching this will know that lots of other Android phones out there have had a camera control button in the past, most notably Sony, which still to this day launches its flagships with a button that quickly controls the camera and can take a picture once you've launched the camera app. Now that Apple has brought back the camera control button, it could be that we'll see similar buttons launch on phones from larger Android manufacturers like Samsung, Google, and even maybe OnePlus. Speaking of buttons, Apple has also brought the action button to all phones in the iPhone 16 series. Previously on the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, Apple replaced the famous mute toggle with this action button, which is a remappable button that allows you to launch apps or do shortcuts. Now, every phone in the iPhone 16 series has the action button, which means you'll no longer be able to get a mute switch from a mainline iPhone. Over the years, very few Android manufacturers copied the mute switch to their phones, with the notable exception being OnePlus, which has had the mute switch on its phones for a very long time. So it's possible that we won't see other manufacturers bring over their similar action buttons. However, keep in mind that Samsung has an action button, quick button, on the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra. So it's not unheard of to think that Android manufacturers are looking towards the action button for their products. Regarding the displays on the iPhone 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max, we have slimmer bezels than we've ever seen on an iPhone before. We also have slightly bigger displays overall, with the iPhone 16 Pro having a 6.3-inch display and the iPhone 16 Pro Max having a 6.9-inch display, making these some of the biggest displays we've seen on iPhones in a very long time. Now, we've previously seen Samsung and Google launch phones that look a lot like iPhones, including flat displays with uniform bezels all around. It makes a lot of sense to think that we'll eventually see Samsung, Google, and other Android manufacturers do the same thing for their flagship phones that Apple has now done for the Pro-level iPhones. So you can expect slimmer bezels and you can expect slightly bigger displays even in bodies that don't end up being that much bigger than the previous models. Some of the biggest upgrades that Apple brought this year for the iPhone 16 series are for the cameras. And with the iPhone 16 Pro models, we have a notable new upgrade for videography, which is the ability to record 4K at 120 frames per second. Lots of Android phones in the past and present have this capability. Sony and Vivo flagships have the ability on all lenses, and even the Samsung Galaxy S24 has this ability in the Pro mode of the video recording app. Interestingly, the OnePlus 10 Pro did have this feature, but the OnePlus 11 and 12 do not. So Android has this, but it's very inconsistent. But now that Apple's made a big deal out of it, I can expect that you're going to probably see a lot of Android manufacturers bringing 4K 120 frames per second recording to their Android phones. And in the case of Samsung, moving it out of the Pro mode and into the regular mode. And it's also going to be exciting for Pixel fans because we might finally see 4K 120 on a Pixel, which has never happened before. Although I've talked a whole bunch about what Apple has done that Android manufacturers are probably going to end up copying sometime down the road, I do want to close this out by pointing out just how far behind Apple is when it comes to AI. Apple's Apple Intelligence section during its launch was pretty abysmal, with a lot of features Android users already using, and even those features that Apple did announce, they aren't coming to iPhones until later this year or possibly even after that, with some of them launching in beta first this year with no promises of when they're actually going to come out. Despite the fact that Apple is going to make these changes that I've already discussed and then Android is probably going to follow them, don't think that that means that Apple is always ahead of the game. Apple is playing catch up big time when it comes to AI, and Android is at the forefront of that. So, Apple fans, don't get on your high horses yet because you're far behind in some cases. Anyway, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. Do you think Android manufacturers are going to adopt things like the new camera button? Or are they going to bring 4K 120 frames per second recording? Which one do you hope Android phones get the most? Jump down in the comments and let me know. And in the meantime, I will see you guys in the next video. Bam! That's how it's done, Lon.
Lon, you should keep that in the video. That should be the end. Please keep that in, I swear.